Greetings and welcome to a Spooky Lessons with Odin. This episode, going over our last bonus spooky design, and it is this fangy vampire teeth ring set with little blood drippies everywhere. These are made using some Dropduos and Zoliduos. Both of these were sent to me by Scarabeads to play with. So this is what I came up with for a Halloween design because these were all perfect teeth shaped. So I really like those. So leave a link down below so you can check out Scarabeads and see what kind of options they have available. Now I've turned this into a ring, and you can kind of see this is a very large profile. I have a size 10 ring, but I can show you how to turn this into a necklace as well. You can have this as a centerpiece. I'd say probably for anywhere between size 9 and up is where this is ideal. Any smaller, and I'd probably turn this into a necklace instead. Now, this one is really simple and really flexible. I'm going to give you a lot of options towards the end of the video as to alternatives if you don't have Iris Duos or Zoliduos. But, in my opinion, this is the best way to form the most toothiest, pointiest appearance. So I highly recommend getting these, but there are other options and other techniques on how to do this. But for the main project doing this, you're going to need size 15 seed beads, preferably in a bloody red color. Size 11 seed beads, also in a nice red color, preferably one that kind of matches that. I used one left and one right Zoliduo for each side of the jaw. I recommend toothy colors, but you can get fancy and use metallics, and black even would look cool with this. So, for matching toothy colors of the Dropduos, these are really cute. They're like sunflower seeds almost, but they also look like teeth. So I used 4 for the main appearance here. I ended up using 6 of a red color, 2 for the blood, and then 4 for the band, 2 on each side. You don't have to do that bit. You can alternate that with something else more droppy, or just do something else for your ring band. Yeah, do something else for your ring band if you don't want to. And, of course, your needle and thread. I'm using a D-weight Nymo, mostly because I hate it, and I want to get rid of it. And a size 12 needle. I don't recommend anything larger, but a 4 to 6 pound fire line will be fine, too, for that. But with all that being said, let us get started. Alright, so, in terms of these Zoliduos, I really don't understand what makes a right versus left, because you can turn it around and the left becomes the right, and things like that. So I don't know what the orientation is. But we're looking for our teeth to look like this. Curled on the inside to look like fangies. Then we will use our 4 little fangy bits, droppy duos, and such, for the teeths. Now you're also going to need a stop bead, or one of these fancy schmancy spring drop thingies. Use probably about 3 feet of thread to make this ring. You shouldn't have to add on, but if you do, it's easy to do. So when you add your stop bead, you can leave probably an extended tail so you can work on the other side whenever you'd like. So I have threaded on my size 11, one of my Zoliduos, my 4 Dropduos on the top holes on all of these beads, and my other Zoliduo, and a size 11 seed bead. Now what we're going to do is skip over the size 11 seed bead and pass back through the top hole of the Zoliduo, so that we move our thread to the outside. Now to maintain the spacing of the Dropduos, I'm going to add one size 15 between each of them and pass through the bottom hole of the Dropduos, so that it sort of positions itself better in the Zoliduo. So all I'm going to do is add on a size 15, go through the next Dropduo, and so forth until I have gone down the whole line. Once I've gone through the last one, I'm going to add one more and pass back up through the top hole of the last Zoliduo. Then I'm going to need to turn around so I have my thread on the other side. So I'm going to pass back through the size 11 seed bead, going around the other side so that it sits in the center of the hole on top of the Zoliduo. Then I'm just going to go through the Zoliduo and the 15, If you want to make this extra blood-ridden, you can add 5 size 15 seed beads and pass through the next size 15 so that this wraps around the Dropduo like so, and complete that all the way around. If you don't want to do this step, just pass straight through and up to the size 11 seed bead at the back. Now we're going to go to the other hole of the Zoliduo, and I'm adding 3 size 15s to move to the next hole. Now I've added 11 size 15s, 1 Dropduo, and 2 size 15s. I'm going to pull that down. I'm going to skip over the first 2 seed beads and pass through every single one of these except for 2 on my thread to begin my fringe, so that we start the drop like that. I'm going to add on 2 more and pass through the bottom hole again, so that we complete our fringe drop. But I also want to connect this to the other side so that these are nice and close together, so they look more like a streak of blood. So I'm going to go all the way around and back up until I've reached this side again. So like this. Then I'm going to pass back through the 3 size 15s to pull them down. Then the size 11. And when I pull tight, it makes a bit more of a uniform loop. But I want to close this gap up here, so I'm just going to add 1 size 15 and pass back through the size 11, the 3 15s. Then to kind of secure this area, what I'm going to do is move down 2 more until I'm at the fringe drop point, pull tight to make sure this is nice and flush. Then I'm going to pick up the 2 on the other side of the Zoliduo, and that'll hide the thread in there. Then I'm going to go back through the Zoliduo and go back up until I've reached the size 11 seed bead again. From there, I'm going to start my band. And that's just going to be a bit of a modification to the right angle weave. So I started off adding on 2 size 15s, the top hole of a Dropduo, and 2 size 15s. I'm going to pass back around through the size 11 seed bead till I have the drops like that. I can reinforce this once more to make everything nice and secure. Then I want to end up coming out of one of the 2 size 15s. I'm going to add 3 size 15s and go through the bottom hole of our Dropduo, add on 3 more size 15s, meet the other 2 size 15s on the top hole of the Dropduo. We're going to go back around through the size 11, then all the way down to the bottom seed bead on one side. You can also reinforce this by passing through the Dropduo, up 3, through the second hole of the Dropduo, and go back down. Then I'm going to add 2 size 15s, 1 size 11, 2 size 15s, go up 3 size 15s on the opposite side, go through the top hole of the Dropduo. Then from here you can reinforce by going through the 5 seed beads, through the 11, through 2, go through the bottom hole, up 2, and end up at the size 11. From there, you're going to repeat those exact steps to add another Dropduo section. So from the size 11, you add your 2 15s, Dropduo 2 15s, and continue on until you have another petal. Then you can undo your stop bead and repeat on the other side. If you feel like taking an extra step, you can also pop the points of the blood drips if that's what you've added on the teeth. And what I'm going to do is, I'm coming out of the Zoliduo here. I'm going to go through the connecting seed bead in between the Dropduo and the Zoliduo. I'm going to go down 2 size 15s, skip over the center one, and go immediately up through the next one, so that this tucks the thread behind and forces that one down. Then we'll just repeat with the other one, go through the connection between the 2 Dropduos, go down through the 2 size 15s, skip over the third in the center, and go up the 2 size 15s, and if you pick up the connection one at the same time, that's fine as well. Just go through that to pop this point forward. And it sort of stiffens that one so they aren't flying around too much. You could do that with the other 2 as well. So if your ring size isn't big enough to accommodate the large motif on here, what you can do is add a bunch of these Dropduos on a chain as long as you want, and you can make it into a bracelet or attach like a bit of metal chain to it after doing a few drops and adding it to a necklace or something. And when you make your other blood drop, you can decide whether or not you want it longer or shorter. I've made mine a bit shorter just because it's on a ring and it doesn't really have room to do a lot of things on it, but that is just what I did. But if you are making this into a ring, there will be the time when you need to join this up, and all I did to do it, this one I did ladder stitch, and I didn't like how it looked, because it kind of has so much thread exposed that kind of doesn't match up with the rest of the piece. So I think right angle weave is much more appropriate. So I'm coming out of a size 11 seed bead on the end of my Dropduo. I'm going to pass it back through to form my first right angle weave stitch. I'm going to then reinforce that and end up coming out of the size 15 on the far end. And I'm going to continue on in the right angle weave just like that. I'm going to add 3 size 15s, go back through, and then reinforce, end up through the size 15 on the other side. I'm going to go there until I have all but 1 stitches remaining for the length. I just didn't have any official way of measuring it. You can use a ring mandrel. You can just keep putting it on your finger until it fits, but just do that until you have almost the length that you want. You want it a little tight as well because the thread will stretch out over time and over wear. So just keep that in mind as you're making it. So once you have the length of the band that you want, it's time to join the pieces together, and that is super easy. All we're going to do is fold it in half, and we're aiming for the size 11 seed bead on the opposite drop. So what I'm going to do is, I'm coming out of the right side. If I fold it over like this, I'm going to add 1 size 15, pass through the size 11 on the other side, add on 1 more size 15, and pass through the opposite side of the size 15 that we started from in order to complete our join. And when we pull everything tight, we will have a very nice, clean join and a completed ring. Now, for this same exact technique, there are a couple of alternatives you can use for the beads if you don't want to if you don't have Zoliduos or Dropduos in your stash. I have a few replacements for you for the Zoliduos. You can use Vexillos, which kind of have a more sharper motif, and you don't have to worry about right versus left. You use the same exact technique, just replace these with the Zoliduos. They're 2-holed as well. At least they would be if the hole wasn't blocked. You can use chili beads. They have a wide enough profile, though the tooth might be stuck inside the cave in here. You can see how it's got like a... You can kind of see how the inside is scooped out, so you might have to add a couple seed beads for spacers if the teeth of the Dropduos kind of hang out. But that's got 2 holes, so you don't have to change anything with the technique there. You can try to use 2-hole daggers, but these things are giant, so they will probably take up a very, very large portion of your hand, which might be something that you're going for. So, you can try 2-hole daggers. Crescent beads might work as well, but you're going to have points sticking out on both sides, which, again, might not look too bad. The hole position is the same on as the Zoliduo, so you shouldn't have too many problems with that. You'll just see how it's in the center instead of on the edges, so you can try adding 2 at a time instead of 1, make it look like you got 4 fangs. Something like that. You can try super duos as well, although these won't look as toothy, I don't think, but they have 2 holes. They should be able to compare with the other beads, and it should sit pretty well. But yes, those are replacements that I have for the Zoliduos. I only have one option for replacements on the Dropduos for the 2-hole technique that we just did, and that would be mini duos. They're about the same size, they have about the same hole orientation, they might look a little bit more toothy, and more straight like actual front teeth, instead of the pointed. jagged things like the Dropduos are. So that's an option for that. Now, I have two more techniques to show you. And one of them is very similar to the double hold version, and that is anything with one hole in it. So, these are mini daggers. Dropduos have 2 holes, mini daggers only have 1 hole, and this is kind of what you end up with. The disadvantage with that is these do flop around quite a bit, which could be fun to play with, if you like fidget rings and things like that, but it's also easier to make too. So, for those single hole replacements, you can use mini daggers like this. You can use Rizos, which are kind of pointed. They kind of look like little rice grains with just 1 hole on them. Super Unos might work too. Like that, but I have Rizos, mini duos, and I also have prong beads if you like the jagged look. So prong beads are like half crescents. That is what it will look like when strung, which is pretty toothy in itself, and it's got 1 hole. It's like as if you took a crescent and chopped it in half. So those are an option as well. I know I have a lot of other designs that using prongs, so if you have leftovers, that would be a good option. So let me show you how to do this technique real quick. So, once again, I've got my stop bead on one side. All I've done on this one is added a size 11, 1 Zoliduo, 4 mini daggers, 1 Zoliduo, or whatever you're using there, and a size 11. Then I just skip over the size 11 seed bead, then pass back through all of the beads once more, to anchor that size 11 seed bead on that side. Then I pass back through the size 11 on this side, and then travel through all of those beads once more, so that I have my thread on the opposite side, and I've anchored the size 11 seed bead on this side. From here, I just go down my size 11 seed bead. I repeat the steps to add a fringe. I can add a red mini dagger as a piece of fringe instead of the Dropduo. Add that, reinforce that, then do your band. Now, since these don't have 2 holes, you can't really use that band, so you can either replace it with a super duo, and repeat the steps for the iris duo to form your band and form your blood drops, using the 2 holes there. You might have to adjust since the super duo isn't as big, or you can just do a seed bead right angle weave using the size 11 seed bead here, and just continue on, and have no drops on either side of the ring. But that is how you do this with a single hole bead. Now there is one more technique you could do, and that is with a single hole bead utilizing the ladder stitch to make some fangs and teeth in between the 2 Zoliduos. Right here I have true 2mm fire polish beads. I tried this with 3mm beads, but they didn't want to sit nicely because they're round. So the true 2mm worked pretty well and have some nice tension between the beads. So I have replacements for that. So you could try the true 2mm like this. You can do 8-0 seed beads. That should work pretty well. Toho cubes or any other cube sizes, somewhere around like the 8-0 size or anything similar to that. You can try larger to see if it works. Since they're cube-shaped, they should work pretty well with a ladder stitch no matter what size. And in a similar vein, triangles from Toho. These might work well, especially if you get the points to face outward instead of like the flat side, or even all the flat sides. It's just what you have in your stash. This is what I had in my stash to kind of pull apart and see and give you guys other options. So this is what I have came up with. You can do small, like 3mm bugle beads. That would work well with a ladder stitch. And finally, delica beads. They'll be very small, but they will work. So I found that bigger is better, especially when it comes to the ratios between the 2 sizes. But those are just the options that I came up off the top of my head. So let me show you how to do this one real quick. So I'm not really going to bother with a stop bead on this one, because we're going to anchor everything almost immediately. So I've got on a size 11, a Zoliduo, and one of my 2mm beads. I'm going to pull that down. I'm going to hold my tail. Then I'm going to skip over the 2mm bead and pass back through the Zoliduo, so that we anchor the 2mm there. It's going to take a little bit of work in order to get this sitting in the center, but if you reinforce it, it should give you a better time with that. Now to anchor the size 11 seed bead, I'm going to pass back through it and the Zoliduo, like that. And if I have my thread tension, these things tend to pop up. Now I'm going to pass upward through the 2mm bead, and I'm just going to do a ladder stitch to add my remaining teeth. So I add 1 2mm, go around and up through the previous one. Then we reinforce it to make it nice and tight up against the previous one. So I'm just passing back through the previous bead again. And continue on. I add 1 2mm bead, go down the previous one, go back up the one I've just added, reinforce those 2 beads to make them nice and flush together, add on my last one, go up, reinforce to put them in a nice place, go back down. Then I'm ready to add my Zoliduo on the other side. So I basically just go through the top hole, add on a size 11, go back through the Zoliduo, and then whatever side isn't anchored to the Zoliduo, I'm going to go there. So you can see that I'm anchored through the bottom side of the 2mm bead. I'm going to go through the top side in order to cinch that in place. So I have something like that, and then I pull tight, go back through the Zoliduo and through the size 11. From there I add my fringe drop. You can use whatever you have in your stash, probably a super duo, and you can add your band however you'd like. Again, with super duos, or you can even do some right angle weave with the true 2mm beads as well. And that is it for this Vampire Fang ringy thingy. I hope you enjoyed. I really had fun playing with the Dropduos. I like them very much. They're very pointy and very tiny at the same time, so you can really do some detail work with these. I'm going to probably have more, quote-unquote, normal tutorials and normal designs, but this was a nice spooky Halloween quickie to put together. And I figured I'd do that for the last bonus Octoberween design. So I'll leave links down below as to where you can find Dropduos and Zoliduos. They are a really fun bead to put in your stash. I enjoyed playing with them, so thank you Discover Beads for sending those off to me. And yes, I think that will do it for me. Be sure to like up this video and subscribe if you want more spooky bullshit from me. Check out all my other shenanigans and my other Octoberween playlists so that you can get more spooky in your spooky place. The place where you keep all your spooky. And check out all my other shenanigans right here on YouTube. I don't just do jewelry, I do a lot of other things to humiliate myself on the internet. And if you want more vampire tutorials, check out my Patreon page, where we have done this gothic choker, also featuring Zoliduos if you have enjoyed. Since you only used 2 on this one, use the rest of them on this piece. So this is a very fun chokery project, and I even added another bite on the other side of that. So, links to that will be down below. Feel free to subscribe and support me on Patreon because it really helps me out, and it really helps me bring better content to you. And if you're not even interested in the tutorial part of it, and you just want to say, hey Odin, you're doing cool shit, and you want to support me in that regard, feel free to do so as well. And check out my writing blog. I do a lot of writing and rambling on reviews and things I experience, as well as the occasional fiction piece. Yes, so all pertinent links will be down below. Thank y'all so much for joining me, and of course, if there's anything I need to be trying out right now, feel free to let me know down below, and I will see you next time.